Go Cox.
And tip our hats and raise our glasses of
Welcome back, everybody.
cold beer.
Of course, we're joined by Jamie Bradford here on our McKellar Enterprises guest line. And of course, the show is sponsored by Manscaped. Don't forget, use the code BIGSPUR at manscaped.com for 20% off and free worldwide shipping. And of course, the second hour of the show is sponsored by the Burgesson team at RE/MAX by the Lake for all your commercial real estate needs. Give Adam or Derek a call or send them an email at aburgesson, BERGESON at remax.net. Welcome in, JB.
What's up?
What's going on, man?
Well, man.
Yeah.
Well, God, that song got me fired up. Reminded me of beach trips I used to take with my buddy, who's also named Jamie, another Jamie, and we'd play that song over and over and over again. I think our lady friends that were with us at the time got sick of it, but that is a hell of a song. So
Yeah,
that's good. I got fired up with that. All right, so a little bit of hard scrabble mixing up of the schedule this week. South Carolina State Gamecocks play tomorrow. I kind of like it because I like Thursday night games because I can get the Gamecocks out of the way and just chill and watch everybody else and not get nervous or sad or happy or whatever. But your take on kind of the happenings and this game and how it sets up because it's coming right up to us.
yeah. Well, first and foremost, it was nice to be able to enjoy the large majority of a football game last week and not have to sweat it all out. I mentioned to Bill on Monday morning on 107.5 that my cousin looked at me and said, it's kind of nice being able to sit here in the fourth quarter and not have to wonder what the outcome of the game's going to be for us. we sat there in the fourth quarter many a times, not either A, knowing what the outcome's going to be, or B, knew exactly what it was going to be, but it just wasn't going to be for the good guys. So that was nice. I just hope that this week they're able to, even with the changes, the schedule change, the impending weather, it's still going to be fairly breezy tomorrow night in Columbia and things like that. So I hope that they're able to kind of keep building on the things that they feel like they need to build on to establish the identity of the football team, both offensively and defensively. I mean, last week, as it started defensively, they just left a lot to be desired. But then once they started sending pressure and making Charlotte uncomfortable, it felt a little bit more like Gamecock defense again. I mean, that's something that we used to do around here a lot.
Jamie, you got a connection popping on us. Can pop off and pop back on. Yeah. Let's restart this. This is like a ghost in the machine. It wasn't that bad. It was listenable, but it's it's choppy. So sometimes if you just restart the connection, it's fine. All right, we're going to get JB back in here. Thanks for everybody pointing it out because we do this in 3 different locations, and sometimes it may be my internet and everything sounds fine, or it may be Phil's and everything sounds fine on the other end. So we appreciate that. But that's that was a little choppy there. But that's we know JB. He'll get back in here and bring it like he always does, like a champion. So let me know when we get him back, Phil. Doc says, I thought I was just too high. Man, I'd be
in early, huh, Doc?
People sit around and smoke up and drink. And I know one guy got hammered one morning and was listening to the show and all that. So it was like, he was just sitting there hammered. And, I'm flattered when people do that because it kind of makes it glory. All right, we got you now.
Is this better?
Oh, you sound great.
100% awesome or awesome. Is awesome or a word? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, why not?
But to your point, that was great about the Charlotte game and all that. This game being no, it's okay. On the Thursday night, all of a sudden, our poll question today, and 09 Ole Miss is running away with it, just in case you guys like 85%. But your favorite Thursday night Gamecock win?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, look, that one's up there. I mean, no doubt. I mean, that's the night that Sandstorm began. Ole Miss was number 4 in the country, if I remember correctly. Jevin Sneed was the quarterback, and they had that quick little booger tailback, and we kind of shut them all down. That was in 09. It's neck and neck, but I kind of lean towards the 07 Kentucky game.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you why. Because Kentucky is traditionally, at least since we've been in the league, been more of a rival. That year, at that point in time, South Carolina, if you can take yourself back into the moment, this is when you felt like, okay, it's really arrived under Steve, because they had already upset Georgia, right? And this was at the time it was an 8-11 matchup, if I remember correctly. I think Kentucky was ranked 8th in the country, and we were ranked 11th in the country. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
That night, so you kind of felt like, all right, if they get this win, we're a top 10 team in year 3 under Steve Spurrier. Everything is working. It's clicking. We here we are, and they just had put together a pretty nice recruiting class, and they're building another really good one, and we'd kind of started to find some stars. Sydney had already kind of come alive, but Kenny was starting to come alive. We had just figured out who Eric Norwood really was and what he was capable of doing, and other guys on that defense. And so I think if you just go back into the moment, just remembering the feeling of that night, like, okay, I don't know. I'm not sure that anybody was really sold on the fact that Kentucky was number 8. Matter of fact, Kentucky this year kind of reminds me of Kentucky that year. Like, can they clear that hurdle? Because I think there's a lot of people are just waiting on them to fall flat on their face, and they did it that year. Very similar to Ole Miss in 09. Did anybody really think Ole Miss was a top 4 team when we beat them at Williams Brice that night? So I kind of lean towards the Kentucky game. I think a lot of people will trend towards Ole Miss because that's the night that Sandstorm happened, and that's all the fun and the glitz and the glamour and this, that, and the other. But as far as kind of where the program was headed, now we did turn around and lose to Vanderbilt, which sucked. But in that moment, that night, that 24-17 win, boy, that sure felt good.
Talking Jamie Bradford here, weekly segment. Again, we're out at 12:30 today. I'm going to cut a little short. But, yeah, Andre Woodson was the quarterback for Kentucky coming in, and Norwood got him. Crazy enough, I didn't include it on the poll. And I'll tell you what, I mean, because mine is probably different because it's a game I actually did not go to. It was 01 when Carolina played Mississippi State right after 9/11. Also, we're going to be very physical down there in Starkville, and Andrew Penning had a big run at the end. But I was at my friend's bachelor party, so that was a memorable night. And I just kind of thought, when you talk about and it's kind of sad. I think a lot of people are kind of waking up this week, JB, and realizing, we lost. We, meaning the Gamecocks, lost the Thursday night tradition. And there was quite a Thursday night tradition. If you think about it, first game since 9/11, Thursday night Carolina game. Opened the season, opened college football like how many years in a row? First game out there. And really didn't play they played East Carolina once. They played Southern Miss once. But it wasn't, they played some pretty good teams during that time. Even a game they lost, you played North Carolina. It's those 2 games of the NC State and Russell Wilson. Shane brought those up this weekend. Marcus Lattimore's first touchdown as a Gamecock against Southern Miss in 2010.
I can tell you when the tradition ended. I can tell you exactly when it ended. It ended 2016. No. It ended in 2014.
That one stunk, but that still was the first ever football game televised by the SEC network. Brent Musburger called it. It's the first ever. So that was
I remember after that game, I was like, we don't need to do Thursdays anymore.
It sucks. Sorry. And of course, they beat North Carolina in 15, and Charlotte had no business winning that one. And then as far as how the teams ended the season. And then 16, Chris was on with us earlier, talk about the Muschamp win.
Yeah.
The first.
Elliott Fry.
That was a gutsy win looking back on it, because Vandy ended up being pretty good that year. I think they went to a bowl just like Carolina, but and they were kind of dominating the game, and Carolina scrapped. I mean, it's a scrappy. I remember Derek Mason saying that's a scrappy football team. I'm like, and then thinking you can't beat anybody but Tennessee for some strange reason. So, of course, that Vandy team also beat Georgia in Athens, Kirby Smart's first year later that year. So.
Yeah, well, and if I remember correctly, in the offseason that year, Derek Mason had really built that game up like it was the Super Bowl for Vanderbilt.
Their players said,
matter of fact, I think they said it was their Super Bowl.
Yeah, they guaranteed victory. And here's Muschamp, and he was fired up after that one, but. You think about all the great moments on Thursday night, Spurrier's first game. It's kind of lost, but I don't know. Maybe somebody somewhere will talk to ESPN and bring it back, because some of the Thursday night matchups in Week 1 now are garbage.
Well, I mean, they're not.
The SEC.
The SEC doesn't really do Thursday nights anymore.
I know. I mean, Arkansas. Well, Tennessee has played like.
Opening week.
Sisters of the Poor and the Dayton YMCA, the last 2 years on Thursday night.
Yeah.
But they, Arkansas, I think, played. Was it Arkansas Pine Bluff or somebody? I mean, Carolina played some decent teams. They opened at Mississippi State one year. I mean,
we won that game too. That was a 15-0 win.
That was the back like Cook crack game when Corey Boyd. Oh man, Sveldon, absolutely. I was at that game in Starkville. So that's kind of good to be getting back, even though it's unprecedented circumstances to get back to playing Thursday night. Lots to talk about Spencer Rattler this week. What to do on offense? I keep preaching balance, JB, because I thought they had some balance last week. Rattler was what I would call fairly efficient, nothing downfield, anything like that. But a lot of people want to see some more vertical passes. I think that could be a key to the Kentucky game. Your take on what you'd like to see out of the offense tomorrow night, assuming the elements don't restrict, some things. Because if it's real windy, I mean, it's unrealistic to be throwing it all over the place.
Well, I can tell you what you will see out of the offense tomorrow night. They're going to run the football. I mean, they have to. They don't have any choice. I mean, we can all sit around and spout what we want to see and this, that, and the other as far as the fun stuff, throwing it downfield. And I get it. None of that works until you can run the ball in this league. And they have not been able to run the football in this league. Last weekend, they ran it well. We obviously need to consider the fact that Charlotte is putrid on defense. With that said, to make sure that there is credit given to the program, starting with Marshawn, who ran incredibly physical. I'm kind of hoping, JC, the old football adage of bumps and bruises here, like maybe it took that, a night of, hey, we just need to just get in there and just run and get our helmets knocked off a couple of times and let guys get bumped around and banged around and continue to feel out this run game so we can figure out who we want to be. I mean, you're not going to run for 295 next week in Lexington. You're not going to run for 295 against A&M. Matter of fact, I'll go ahead and put it out there. They're probably not going to run for 195, and if they do in either one of those games, they won. They won the game. I mean, this program, it's I don't know why we continue to get away from it under Coach Beamer and under Coach Muschamp. When they run, they win. That's just really all there is to it. I mean, when they run, they win on the offensive side of the football. And then on the defensive side of the football, we've been talking offense the whole time. I think I was trying to say it earlier, but my computer crapped out on me, is, they have got to continue to send pressure. I mean, they have to. No doubt. Yeah. They have to take chances, guys. They have to take chances. They're not going to be able to be successful if they don't. And I pair that with this. My favorite player on the defense is Jordan Birch, because I know what he can and is capable of being. He has not been that. He's shown it from time to time. It's there. One play comes up and you're like, holy moly, nobody can block this guy. And then you don't see him for a series or two. I almost hope that Jordan Birch is watching a lot of TV and listening to a lot of radio right now, because I hope that he is hearing it and it's challenging him. like, man, I'm better than this. You know, I'm a former top 5, top 10 player in the country. Everybody wanted me for a reason. I want to go to the NFL. I want to be the next great D end at South Carolina. He's not going to do any of those things until he becomes more consistent and more destructive. And then teams against like Charlotte and SC State, he should be killing guys out there, literally. I mean, like, there should be dudes that he's having to, like, man, I'm sorry I did that to you, but, you know, it's kind of part of the game, pal. I mean, you know, and then when you get into the biggest games, Jordan Burch needs to be your best player. I mean, I said before the season the defense will go as Zach Pickens goes. Well, that was before we had like 6 starters go out with injuries.
Yeah.
So now it's as Jordan and Zach go. Like, he's got to get in there, and I kind of took for granted that I thought Jordan Burch was just going to be what I heard he was going to be. You know, season rolls around, this cat's going to be unstoppable. So they got to keep sending guys. They got to get his motor running, and on offense, they got to continue to perfect the run game. If they can do those things, you can start to change the outlook of the season a little bit more.
Yeah, and you know, with Jordan Strawn out, now Terrell Dawkins, who is going to provide depth, is out. That's getting thin over there, and so, you know, and I think sometimes we take it for granted because we're like, well, Burt should just be out there dominating. Well, these big guys do get tired. Okay, so when you're not rotating because you don't have depth, or you're trying to steal a play by throwing Thomas out there or something for a play and hope nothing goes wrong, you know, these guys they get gassed toward the end without the depth, and you know, I think, you know, it's going to be interesting to see, to your point about taking some chances and sending pressure. You know, I was told that last week by somebody that would know. You know, you got to get off the field. You know, if there was one criticism about kind of how the defense has been called up until the second half last week, you know, he said the defense isn't attacking. They're not. You got to take some risk because, you know,
they're on their
heels. You
heels.
can't just sit there and let them bleed you to death. You know, you got to make some plays, and you know, when you get pressure, sometimes good things happen. Tip passes, interceptions, that kind of thing. You know, and so I don't know. All right, Nana Sports chat box, JB, because we were guested up today. You know, 3 back-to-back guests, including yourself. So they're going to ask you some questions. Jared, and you just respond to this. He says they aren't physical enough in the trenches. Cody Waldrop said on Facebook last week, "You can't coach physical, you recruit it." Cody was certainly a physical player.
Yeah, he was.
I thought that was an interesting take. I'll just say I don't agree that. I mean, I've seen these guys be physical in high school and at times at Carolina. I mean, Boogie Huntley is a physical player. You know, Tonka Hemingway is a physical player. The offensive linemen that are starting now, I think, are very physical players. But what do you? I mean, I think you can coach it. I think sometimes you flip a switch, and you know, guys may not understand exactly what it means to go out there and be physical. But they get knocked in the mouth enough, and sooner or later, you know, they either respond or wilt. But I've seen teams respond.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes in football, scheme can give off the illusion that you're not physical. I mean, because some schemes are just physical schemes. They're just going to line up and come right at you, and oh man, those guys, boy, they hit you in the mouth. Well, that's what they're designed to do. You know, like South Carolina offensively, their run game, everything. Jason, we've talked about this before. The way it's designed, it's not necessarily designed to just line up and run it down your throat. You know, so it doesn't really look like that. On the defensive side of the football, you know, I don't want to be too critical here because I'm not a defense coordinator, but I mean, certainly as opposed to some of the better defenses we've seen in the last 20 plus years around here, I mean, this team just kind of doesn't give off the illusion that they are trying to force something to happen. They're kind of more waiting for something to happen. And that will also kind of, you know, make
that's not modern football. Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's not really it's kind of the bend but no don't break thing. And so I think sometimes I can give off the persona that, well, maybe you're not physical. I think they have physical football players. Maybe the brand that they need to get into a little bit more week in and week out. They need to match that of their peers in the league.
Yeah, I don't mind bending it, but don't break it at times, especially if your offense is struggling. But what you got to do, well, defensively, is when they get in the red zone, you got to tighten up, and that was missing. That's been missing until the second half last week because teams would drive and they'd be okay, dink dunk, 4 yards, 5 yards, 2 yards, 3 yards, 5 yards, you know, chunk down the field. They get in the red zone, nothing would change. You know, they continue to – I mean, how many times has Carolina's opponents this year gotten inside the 20 and then run like 6 more plays, the same plays they were running, prior to getting inside the 20. I think if you're gonna play bend but don't break, when they get down there, you got to kind of change your approach up, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and like if you go back to last weekend, again, it's Charlotte. They made things happen in the second half. Like if that was on, if you watch it, just that's all it takes. I mean, y'all, everybody knows. If you ever watch football, you know this. Enough pressure, you force a quarterback to throw the football 1 foot from where it should be going. Bad things can happen. That happens. Shoot, the loudest I was last week was on a play that literally meant nothing to the outcome of the game in the second half. Kid caught the ball, DQ Smith drilled it and knocked it out of his hand. Everybody's looking around at me like, what is this idiot going nuts for? We're winning by like 20 points. I said, because I haven't seen that in 4 games. Like we used to see that week in and week out around here. So, those the headhunt, every once in a while, 15-yard penalty isn't bad. He didn't get one there, thank God, but every once in a while, taking 15 yards, have at it. If that means that's how you're going to play all game, I'm all right with that. DJ Swearinger lived that way for 3 years.
Yeah. All the other guys, I mean, and I think I'll tell you this about DQ. I did my little Lou Holtz. He's extremely physical. He is extremely physical. My player comparison to him, and I may have been a little off because I don't think he's quite as big as Corey Jenkins, but he reminded me of Corey Jenkins coming out.
Not as big as Corey.
He's not as big as Corey Jenkins, but but he will strike you, and he's not scared.
No,
he's not. Scared.
I mean, DJ was 5'11", maybe. He wasn't scared of nothing.
All those guys weren't. Gilmore wasn't scared. Sheldon Brown would knock you into next Tuesday. That's South Carolina defense. So
would my man Tony Watkins back in the early 90s.
Jonathan Joseph, Rashad Faison. I could go. Darian Stewart. I could go on and on and on. Captain Munnerlyn was physical.
Yeah.
Lance Player says DQ and Debo are a whole vibe. Yeah, Debo Williams, there's a lot of mixed opinions out there. Some folks like Kreger thinks he's slow. I don't know that he's slow. I think
he fits a traditional scheme. He fits that traditional 4-3. He's not one of these real hybrid guys at linebacker, but he's learning it. As he continues to learn it, he'll play faster.
Yeah, I think that's more the case there. And then when he got there, that's kind of what they said. They're like a really instinctive guy, but has to kind of learn, how to play and all that. I think they're getting Stone Blanton back this week. I think they need to rep him up and get him ready because he's going to have to play a lot moving forward. All right, wrap it up here with JB. Do you have a score prediction for tomorrow night or anything, or is it?
I don't think it's going to be very high scoring. It's going to be. I mean, like last week. I mean, last week they put their 76 points combined between the two teams. I'm a big fan of Bennett Swigert. Bennett's a great guy. He's a hell of an OC, and I know he loves being at South Carolina State, but he's on some radars out there, so we'll see what happens in the next few years. But he likes being close to home and Somerville and all that, and I like what he does with their offense. So I'm anxious to see the Bulldogs offensively. South Carolina, again, I want to see more of the same from this past week. I want to see more of the same, JC. Let's continue to try to figure out this run game. Still don't love the scheme, but nobody has to love it if it works. So if they can find a way to get it working, that's all that matters. And then on the defensive side, kind of continue to try to find their footing and be more aggressive as the year goes along. So let's put them somewhere in the upper 30s. I think Gamecocks will hang somewhere between 35 and 40 on SC State. Let's go 40-14. South Carolina.
40-14. That'd be similar to the 38-3, 38-14, 40. That's similar to previous SC State Gamecock matchups. So that'll be good. Well, JB, hope you're doing well. I know you're down on the coast, so I hope the storm affects you at all. I hope you and your family obviously are safe, and I'm sure we'll talk really, really soon.
Yep, we appreciate it. Hope everybody's having a great week. And if you can get out there tomorrow night, get out there and see them. Go Cox. See you next week.
All right. Thanks, Jamie.
By the way, I meant to say this. Screw Kentucky. Hope they get their ass beat this weekend.
They probably are.
Yeah,
100-0. I'm predicting it right now. Lane Kiffin.
Lane Kiffin 100-0.
100-0.
So hang a whole 100 on them.
Hang a whole 100 on them. All right. So thank you very much, JB. And we're going to talk a lot about the Wildcats next week.
I have respect for Kentucky.
It's already bleeding through a little bit. We talked about Kentucky a lot earlier on the show. So.
I have respect for them. I just can't stand them.
It's gotten to that point, and it used to not be. It used to be like, why in the hell are you losing to these guys? And now it's like, All
People
right,
said
we're-
that about us during one period. They were like, "Dude, screw these guys. We should be
Yeah,
beating their
we're
ass
sick
every
of these
year."
guys. Yeah. So, all right, bud. Well, you take it easy.
All right,
Yeah,
see
man.
ya.